The first time I saw the film, the sequence, they're in Vegas and Kay and Deckard are fighting in the showroom with the malfunctioning holograms. That was the scene that completely took my breath away. Like I just was just so exciting from a sound perspective. So can you talk a little bit about that scene? Because I also understand that went through a little bit of an evolution.
Yeah, I mean, it started off as a sequence scripted very differently, where Deckard was sort of using a cacophony of different music to lose Kay in that sort of in that arena. That is to say that when we entered that scene, the first thing we would have is Elvis singing, and then it wasn't glitching out. Originally, the idea was you'd have a whole performance running the whole way through the scene. But on top of that, sort of superimposed on top of Elvis, first Marilyn Monroe singing "Happy Birthday, Mr. President," Liberace playing the piano, a Bollywood dance troupe, a tiger, an elephant. I remember it just got insane. There was like this
just more
build up of insanity.
A cacophony, really.
And that's, in itself is a great idea. It just turned out that when we played the first cut of the film back with that in its original incarnation, first of all, it was visually and sonically confusing, which was sort of the idea. But, visually we were losing where Deckard and Kay were in the room. It was just kind of cluttered. Visually, it was cluttered because of all of these elements that had been filmed in separate passes. So to some extent, Joe Walker was then able to look at what he was able to remove. And it was his idea, maybe we have like a broken projector and maybe Elvis is just sort of sporadically appearing around the room. Right. This left us with a problem of, what are we going to do with the sound? And, originally the idea was that we don't really hear anything. There's this cacophony of music going on. So as with many of these sort of scenes where we weren't quite sure where we were going and what we wanted to do with it, Joe passed me a very early version of the scene and just said, see what you can do with this and play with this. And so I came up with the idea of, taking the music of Elvis and glitching it out in various different ways. So it sounded as if there was something horribly wrong with the projector, which was, it punctuated an otherwise very silent scene, which was doing something which made it tense and scary. And that was something that had been lost in that first incarnation. It was like a crazy musical number, and we'd lost the sense of there being a manhunt, and we'd lost the sense of Deckard being scared for his life, frankly. So suddenly pitching them in the silence and being able to hear Kay's breath and Deckard's footsteps, and then suddenly you've got like a blast of Elvis glitching out in front of you. It restored that sense of, you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's going to happen next.
It's disorienting
it's
and
really
eerie
disorienting.
And
but
very
then
unsettling.
we're also in silence and dark, and so I kind of, we get the license to play with what might be there, what we're not seeing, and that was the idea, I think, that led to, well, we don't know what the mechanism is that's supposedly able to go around the room and project these holograms around the place. So
I love those little clicks and relays and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's the idea of having, hidden malfunctioning machinery in the roof making bizarre sounds that, it's just disorientation, and punctuating the silence. and then suddenly a gunshot kind of next to Kay's head, and so yeah, we got to really reshape a scene whilst we were still in the very first cut of the film, and I think up until that point, Denis was considering that scene might have to get cut out of the movie because it just tonally was
my favorite
now
scene in the film.
I think people will say it's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so effective.
It's a kind of carte blanche to do something interesting with sound when you've got something that's effectively a dark room with two scared people in it.
Except for that walk in the desert, it might be one of the most dynamic scenes in terms of quiet to loud in the entire film. And it caps, I think what's one of the things that's interesting about it, by the end of that scene, it caps about a 12-minute run of no dialogue and no music. It is sound design from the first boom in the walk in the desert till, you could argue the blast of music inside the, and no dialogue.
We get there's just a few words exchanged between Kay and Deckard,
right.
and then then they're into this sort of manhunt.
That's brave filmmaking.
Yeah, that's right.